This is Startup Biz Coach Radio, formerly known as Mornings with Terry, and we're empowering entrepreneurs right from the start. Find us at thestartupbizcoach.com every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern with your host, Terry Clay. Are you ready to get this business started?
Hey, this is Terry Clay, and I am back with another episode of the Startup Biz Coach Radio. Yeah. So we are back on this call. We do this call every single day, Monday through Friday we go live at the blog, thestartupbizcoach.com, and we are here empowering entrepreneurs right from the very start, right from the beginning in the world of entrepreneurship. And if you check out, just the blog or the website, thestartupbizcoach.com, you'll see plenty of interviews from outstanding entrepreneurs who have been empowered who are empowering you all right from the very start. And as we do every Monday through Thursday, we always have guests on the call that have been an asset to the entrepreneur world or of the ways of the world. And because of that, we have another guest today. And as we do on this call, the Startup Biz Coach Radio, we allow our guests to introduce themselves with a couple of sentences. So can you please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Thank you very much, Terry. Honored to be on your show. I am Dennis Kimbro. I guess officially, as my students would say, Dr. Dennis Kimbro.
Okay.
I am a college professor at Clark Atlanta University, and I'm the author of 5 books. I guess I will forever be known for the author of Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, Napoleon Hill's last book that I was asked to complete, finish, and update by none other than Mr. W. Clement Stone. And my 5th book is The Wealth Choice, a 7-year study on black millionaires.
So W. Clement Stone asked you to finish the book?
Just like Andrew Carnegie asked the young, impressionable Napoleon Hill if he would spend the bulk of his young life career going around the country interviewing scores of entrepreneurs. The term entrepreneurship wasn't used at the turn of the century. Business owners, trying to ascertain the keys of success for this and future generations. Would he do it? Now, the story goes, some said that Hill took 11 seconds to answer the question, and some say it took 29 seconds. But the fact of the matter is that Andrew Carnegie had asked more than 20 other individuals that same question, and Napoleon Hill was the first one who said yes. And so Andrew Carnegie opened up his little black book of contacts, set up the interviews for him, and Napoleon Hill spent close to 20 years to come up with his first book, The Law of Success. Now, your listeners will probably know Napoleon Hill as the author of Think and Grow Rich, and that book has sold more than 15 million copies. What they don't know, and what some may know, but what the bulk don't know, is that at the time of his death, Napoleon Hill was attempting to write a black version of that book in 1969, 1970. He got 100 pages into the manuscript before dying of a stroke at 87 years old. W. Clement Stone held on to those 100 pages for 16 years until the day that I walked into his office, November 3rd, 1986.
I did not know that. I'm sitting here like my mouth is wide open because I'm like, I did not know that. That is wild. So what is the difference between, because we've had a few of the authors. Well, we have Sharon Lecter, who is working with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and Greg Reed, those people that are working with Napoleon Hill Foundation today. But what is the difference between the Think and Grow Rich, the regular one?
Yeah, there is no difference except for the black profiles. Oh. I don't care what book you read. You go back to the original Think and Grow Rich, and Napoleon Hill comes up with 17 traits, qualities, attributes. Number 1, definiteness of purpose, all the way to sexual transmutation or cosmic havoc force. And he tells you, he says the only reason why he came up with principles 5 through 17 is to get you to use the first 4. And what are the first 4? Definiteness of purpose, mastermind, applied faith, and going the extra mile. But the fact of the matter is there is no difference. When I was given that manuscript and he had no subject, no chapter headings, he just talked about a variation of subjects, and he only had 3 interviews, none of the interviews I could use. Number one, he interviewed, at the time, Undersecretary to the United Nations, Ralph Bunche. He interviewed a gentleman by the name of James Brown, not the singer and dancer, but he was the founder and CEO of Crusader Life Insurance. So I had to basically go around and use the interviews that I was using from my book, which I, introduced as book number 3, What Makes the Great Great. And I used those interviews, applied them to Napoleon Hill's book, and you have another bestseller. But you can learn from anybody. I mean, Terry, the greatest gift that our Creator gave us is the ability to change our mind. Mm-hmm. And the most powerful gift that anyone can have is the passionate, committed mind. The passionate, committed mind cannot be defeated. If the passionate, committed mind could be defeated, there would be no Microsoft from Bill Gates. There would be no Apple computer from Steve Jobs. I mean, there would be no Kathy Hughes Radio 1. But it all starts with the mindset. So, what is the difference between these individuals? I found 4 common chords. Number one, they dream big dreams. They had a dream, a passion, something that they desperately wanted to accomplish in life. Point number 2, they were inner-directed versus outer-directed. In other words, they weren't so quick to believe well-meaning friends or family members who said, you can't do this, you can't do that. They walked to a beat of a different drummer. That's why, Robert Frost, 2 roads diverge in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by. In other words, you are unique. You cannot succeed being like everybody else. If you live the normal life, Terry Clay, and what is a normal life, 75, 77 years on Earth? You do the calculus, girlfriend. That only equates to 29, 30,000 days on Earth. Time is not running out, but your life is. And the entrepreneurial question is, what am I going to do with the rest of life that I have left? Point number 3, they dedicate themselves to lifelong learning. You don't go to school one period of your life. You're in school every day of your life. You read the biblical phrase, where Jesus was missing for 3 days. Jesus, where have you been? Don't you know that people were looking for you, had everybody worried? And how did your master, how did your Savior respond to that question? He said, wait a minute, I had everybody worried? You're looking for me? You should have known where I was. I was about your Father's business. Well, Terry, what in the world is your Father's business? Your Father's business is growing and developing. Your Father's business is raising consciousness, taking in the new information, not being better than everybody else, but being better today than what you were yesterday. Yes. I got students coming up to me all the time, seniors. Oh, Dr. Kimbro, I need a job, man. I'm going to walk across that stage in May, and, man, I don't have any prospects. And I said, you already have a job. And they say, what is that? And I said, continue growth and development, reading, studying, taking in the information. And then last but not least, these individuals flat out refuse to fail. Now, I'm not saying they didn't fail. Many of them actually failed their way to success. I interviewed Damon John of Shark Tank in my 5th book, and I said, Damon, what was a defining moment in your life? He said, when I had to burn the furniture. I said, what do you mean, burn the furniture? He said, well, when I finally got financing from Samsung to start my apparel line, I hired all these seamstresses, and they showed up at my mother's house with their equipment, and I had no place to put their equipment. I said, what did you do? He said, I took all the furniture out of my mother's house, put it in the backyard, and set it on fire. I asked Tyler Perry, I said, Tyler, how in the world did you go from sleeping in your car in New Orleans and sleeping in your car in Atlanta, Georgia, to building a $145 million production studio? He said, nothing but the grace of God. And there I am with Kathy Hughes of Radio 1, and when she finally bought her first radio station, for the first year in that radio station, she and her son slept on the floor in her radio station. And that restroom down at the end of the corridor, well, that was the restroom that they bathed in every day. And there I am with Bishop T.D. Jakes. And what do we know about Bishop T.D. Jakes? I mean, number one, they told him he would never make it in the ministry. Why? He's got a heavy list. Number two, he's a high school dropout. But you look at him now. 191,000 square foot mega facility, 30,000 members, $45 million annual budget. And I'm in his book line study, and I said, Bishop, I'm not getting on that plane and flying back to Atlanta until you give me the keys to wealth and prosperity. And what did he tell me? He said, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. But show him how he can buy the pond, and no one in his family will ever know struggle. Well, how in the hell do you buy the pond? By changing your thoughts, by changing your mind. Terry, if I gave you $5 and I sent you to a local grocery store in the Miami area or wherever this call is emanating from, and I said, go get me a pound of lack. Go get me $5 worth of scarcity. Go get me $2, worth of despair. And you come back and say, Dr. Kimbro, I mean, you can't buy it. It doesn't exist. But you'll be wrong. Yes, it does exist. And where does it exist? It exists in your mind. The Bible says, complete thy noble task. What in God's name is thy noble task? Thy noble task is to at least show up, to at least try, to at least read the book, at least shine your shoes, at least blow the dust off your resume. At least go ask your customer how you can be more efficient and more effective. At least cut the TV off. At least read a book.
Yes.
That is the bottom line.
Ooh-wee. That is powerful. I couldn't even say anything. Just sitting there like, wow, you are blowing me out of the water. I'm just so glad that the listeners are able to hear this because some of the I actually tells them some of the things that you said, that you gotta make it happen no matter what, never give up, never quit. But you just took it to another level for me. When you wrote your
you don't make anything happen. I mean, where do dreams come from? A dream comes from your creator knocking on your mind, asking you, do you want more out of life? I mean, when you raise your consciousness and says, hey, listen, let me tell you something, Terry. The key is you never lower your standards. I mean, if you're in a world of lack and limit, you've lowered your standards. So raise your standards. This is not for you. You have not been created for this. So you don't create anything. I mean, God is the electricity, but you're the lamp. He can do nothing for you until you allow him to do it through you.
Wow. That's powerful.
So just follow the dream. You got the vision. Everything occurs to you twice in life. First the inner, then the outer. First the thought and the thing. First the mental, and then the physical. And to the extent that you control what goes inside of your life, you'll control what goes on the outside. Sorry for cutting you off.
No. I'm listening. I'm taking it all in. But a lot of times we ask the guests on the call about failures and successes. I think you kind of talked about it a little bit. But what happens is there a time to fail, or is there going to be failures in your business? And what do you do, how to turn those failures into successes?
Oh, of course there's going to be setbacks. There's going to be trials. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be roadblocks. But failure is never failure until you accept it as such. Years ago when I interviewed John Johnson of Ebony Magazine, and we were talking about his setbacks and his failures, and I said, what was the determining factor? He said, I learned a long time ago, I only keep score. I mean, you as the individual, as the entrepreneur, you're the only individual who keeps score. And what is the definition of entrepreneurship? It almost implies overcoming. The definition of entrepreneurship is pursuit of an opportunity without any regard to the resources at hand. In other words, you're saying, I don't have the contacts, I don't have the startup money, I don't have the customers, I don't even have a prototype. But you know what, baby girl? I'm going for this. I know this will work. That implies overcoming.
Yes, that is so true. Let me ask you about the Wealth Choice, your book, The Wealth Choice. So is that how you got the interviews of the people that you just spoke about? Were those the people you interviewed for the Wealth Choice?
Well, I'm always interviewing folks, and my first book, the book that I was working on at the time that W. Clement Stone asked me to finish Napoleon Hill's book, was What Makes the Great Great. That was going to be my first book. I mean, I was going around, I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, I was working in corporate America, but I knew what I wanted to do. And I had started out a list with about 50 individuals who I was going to meet and interview, and that list grew from 50 to more than 150. For my book, What Makes the Great Great. Well, Success Magazine caught wind of what I was doing. And they asked me, he said, Dennis, go ahead and write us an article. And they saw my manuscript. And I told Scott DeGarmo, who was the editor and publisher of Success at the time, I said, Scott, no, go ahead. You have my manuscript. Take whatever you want. He said, no, we like your writing style. Go ahead, blah, blah, blah. Well, I wrote an article for Success Magazine, and that article made it to the desk of W. Clement Stone. And I had just returned home to my Atlanta home from interviewing Earl Graves, the publisher of Black Enterprise magazine, and I saw there was a message on my answering machine, and it was from W. Clement Stone. he asked me, he said, young man, we heard about you. When can you come to Chicago? I would like to meet you. Well, about 2 weeks later, me and my wife fly up to Chicago, had no idea what this individual had in mind, and